Welcome everybody to the 30-second TouchDesigner Roundtable. 30-second TouchDesigner Roundtable. I'm very pleased to see so many of you escape the hot weather to come into these cool halls and join the proceedings. Big thank you to Tamschick Media+Space, which invited us and host us and provide also cool beverages in the back. Yeah, as you may know, Tamschick is a studio specialized in media-enhanced scenographies, collaborating with partners from the museum, exhibition, but also the commercial world, creating narrative experiences that transcend time and space. And we're very curious to hear how they do that. So please welcome Mark Tamschick, Dirk Ostkamp and Anton Bolin, who are going to give us some insights, and thank you again for having us.
So thank you so much, TouchDesigner people, to be here in this very cold environment. We even put air condition here. As you can see, we all have to work in the heat. A lot of people know how it feels to be here in the summer and in the winter. It's cold in the winter and fucking hot in the summer. So welcome. We're very happy to have you here. It's a great day to see some of the people that have been here many, many years ago and are popping up today. It's a pleasure to see you all. And we decided to give you a little introduction into what we do, but not in a kind of a pitch presentation, but more kind of talking openly about what are we doing, why are we doing what we are doing, what is driving us. And I believe that we have a lot of things in common with all of you. Basically, our main kind of motivation of doing what we are doing is somehow we grew up as people that liked movies or liked things that were moving and lights that were bubbling around, and tried to make out of this some way to live from it. When I was starting after university, I couldn't find any company that was doing something that I would like, so I had to found my own and then learn how to be a company person that tries to bring in people to do things, and it's fucking difficult, and you know it. And you know how hard it is to run things, to make projects happen, to take them from A to B to C, and in the end, it's all about us. It's all about being a team, being somehow working on things together. And I'm very happy that here at TMS, we are not called Tamschick. We tried to get rid of my last name and to call it TMS, but it doesn't work sometimes. Because I want to get rid of this, because we are a big team of a lot of talents and people, and that's why we wanted to talk together, and you should add, because I will not stop talking.
Can I say something?
Yes. Is it open too?
I'm not sure. Yes. Very low. I fully agree. Yes, we are a team, and we are not all Tamschicks. We are Team S.
True. Sometimes. Hello. You can't open both mics, so we have to grab the mic. We can fight. I don't have a problem. That's all you want to say?
I will get into the projects, but I can introduce myself. I'm Anton. I'm coming from the north of Sweden, from a very cold place, and I'm so happy to live in the exotic south every day of my life. It's like great weather and remarkable temperatures. Yes.
And what are you doing here?
I'm one of the creative directors at Tamschick Media+Space, also known as TMS, and I've been here for around 6 years, something like this. Hard to actually say pinpoint.
But how long of your life have you been spending here already?
The whole time, so I will make this joke later, but...
okay, so don't make it now.
Let's say 17%, something around that, yeah.
Okay. So Anton likes to calculate things and always measure and have like his numbers to do. So my name is Dirk. I started as an art director like many 12, 14, 15 years ago. Started a project, and as our projects are quite long living, there was always like the next project that makes me curious. So, okay, this one is done. Oh, the next one is even more cool. Oh, I can learn something. So since a couple of months, I'm like, head of technology, try to work with innovation, and I know the TouchDesigner Roundtable since years, and I'm like a grateful visitor of this inspirational source, and we are happy to have you all here, and suddenly we can host it, even though we are not using TouchDesigner so much. Marcus will throw a bottle now when I say V4. So we, in the original, we come from like the V4 community. So we did our project with V4, with a German community. And since years, since like 6, 7, 8 years, TouchDesigner became more and more like an important tool within TMS. So we are building our own little helpers, if it's like a shooting preview thing, a DIT tool, a preview tool. And it's growing more and more. So we have a lot of new talents joined the company like half a year ago, a year ago, and more TouchDesigner knowledge comes into this.
Yes, so I hope that some of you will come back when it's less hot and less crowded and we can talk about things. But for now, I will give you a quick introduction. What do we understand under this name media-driven scenography? It's a kind of complicated thing to explain. That Tamschick Media+Space was invented to kind of say what we are doing. We combine media in spaces and try to create new experiences, new ways how to tell stories in spaces. And because we are working with a lot of scenographers, we started to call what we are doing media-driven scenography, because it becomes more and more narration in spaces using media, of course, like linear media or film or interactive media or others, but to kind of try to orchestrate it in a way that stories are unfolding in the visitor's perception and mind. It's not so much like in a movie. You don't go and see a hero running through his problems and so on, but we are trying to put the spectators in this role and actually creating environments around them that kind of trigger what I called Erinnerungsbilder, images that your memory is already carrying with you. And these are kind of activated because, like in this image, you see a forest, but it's actually projected on a flat wall, and not a forest, but because it's moving in a certain way, somehow you kind of connect your mind to a memory of something similar, and then suddenly in your mind a new kind of feeling is created, an emotion, something, and with this emotion you are triggered and you kind of follow, although it's a projected space, and you follow the narrative. We say sometimes that we did immersive spaces since a long time, but now you can't mention this anymore because saying that you do an immersive space is almost an insult because we have seen so many that are completely stupid. They don't show anything that gives you anything. They don't take you into something. So I'm not saying that we haven't done shit too, but we are trying to avoid it. Anton will take us in a minute into invisible worlds. I believe this developing worlds, developing these emotion-driving memory spaces is what we are trying to do. And of course, we don't do only pixels. We also do light. We also do sound. I mean, actually, if I say we do, I always mean we are teams. We are teams of many people with different skill sets. Alone in this company, we have many different talents, many different people that come from different, have different backpacks, let's say, and with these backpacks, they infuse each other and create the project. So it's not, or at least we are trying at TMS to not be hierarchically organized, but more go in a flow where everybody who is on a team in a project is contributing to it.
Chemistry.
Chemistry. So Invisible Worlds was a project, and this is maybe also an anecdote to say, what we are working on is often not a one-night stand, it's a many-month stand, and sometimes it's even several years. This project was running for almost 7 years and a month or something, and was quite exhaustive from the content development to the final product. What you see here on this slide is the kind of proposal that was done. I don't know which iteration it is, probably the 52nd, but it shows this bowl that never changed actually, but kind of a pre-show and a parkour and how people get into this bowl. And what stayed after many years of development, after COVID and after everything, was this bowl. But the idea behind it was that we visited the American Museum for Natural History and saw that their main asset was these dioramas. For those that don't know what a diorama is, it's a box. In the box is a stuffed animal, some plants, and a backdrop that is painted, and it generates a perspective, a feeling, an environment, colors, and you are suddenly seeing the animal in context in the space, and it's beautiful. And we said in this museum that somehow invented or made thousands and thousands of dioramas, we will create a diorama into which spectators can walk in, and in the contrary or opposite of a real diorama, we will add motion, we will add storytelling, and we will make the people the stuffed animals. Hopefully they will survive.
We wanted to bring the dioramas to life, of course, but I will back up a tiny bit. So we were awarded the project at the end of 2016. There was at the very early, so the concept of the show is invisible worlds. It's about all the things in nature or in the world that we cannot see with our own eyes, but scientists know how to look at it. So we invited, I don't know how many, 100, 200 of the most cutting-edge scientists onto a colloquium where they all brought their coolest, most exciting research that also could work well in a cinematic way. And we kind of auditioned the most interesting, most current, up-to-date science visualizations and tried to string them together into a narrative that brings us through different, through different environments. And is the mic or is it me? And it was a wild ride. So, as we said earlier, at the end of this project, I had spent 13% of my life into it. Now, of course, it's getting less and less, but let's not talk about that. So, I think the big challenge was, of course, working with all these different scientists who had very different points of views and who had very different fields of research and expertise, because they were all very, of course, particular and interested, and to make sure that their contribution is accurately represented. But it was great. So I didn't know that much about dragonflies before. I didn't know that much about mushrooms and DNA and so on. And through this process, I basically had to become not an expert, but I had to understand what they're talking about in order to understand, does it make sense for the show, and does it make sense for the visitor at the end? Shall we say something more? Shall we roll the clip?
I think
I have to click.
You have to click now.
In the heart of the world's most vibrant city lies the American Museum of Natural History. With over 150 years of experience in innovative scientific research and exhibits, its spectacular new expansion building, the Richard Gilder Center, continues this tradition by hosting a futuristic venue built specifically for immersive experiences. When you step inside, you'll be transported through different worlds, altering your sense of scale and time. The oval shape of the venue enhances the immersive experience, making physical walls dissolve into the vivid environments, inviting you to participate. Accentuating the animation, a real-time graphics system lets you playfully interact with the content and other visitors. Working closely with scientists worldwide, we gathered inspiration, insights, and data to create scientific visualizations based on real and accurate data collection. Combined with a narrative that takes full advantage of the space, fused together through artistic animations and spatial storytelling. The result is a blend of art, science, and reality, showcased in the largest immersive walkable diorama in any museum. 16 projectors bring the walls and floor to life with a horizontal resolution of over 20K pixels. The 62-channel spatialized soundscape enhances the visual experience, immersing you in the hyper-real soundscapes. Using the visualization tools and techniques of science, we make the invisible visible and unveil the hidden beauty of life around us.
So this show is it's a 12-minute movie in this room, which also has a bunch of interactive moments where the visitors' motion and so on is of course tracked, and they're able to interact with the content as we saw. I think it's great.
Yeah, here you see some images of the pre-show that was changed, so it's kind of weird. This was not realized in the end. We did, I think, 14 different designs for it. Just for the nerds of you, this is the steel structure behind it and the kind of back construction that makes this walkable iPhone work. Some images, you just have to imagine that what we created here is a movie without cuts. It's a constant kind of flow of images, of motion, of moments of calmness, of moments of hectic. It was quite complicated to sell this to an American client that is wearing trousers that have these folds that you can, when you undress them, you put them and
You know the trousers.
and they don't fold. So it's a kind of complex way to get through with ideas in the scientific world, but in the end they followed the ideas from the beginning, and Anton and the team managed to create images in a resolution of
yeah, it's too much. The total horizontal resolution is almost 19 and a half or something thousand pixels. The vertical one is a different one. Then plus what happens on the floor, it's just so many pixels. It's too many to count.
And what we had to learn is how we can take the data from the scientists and make it gorgeous images by knowing the gorgeous images and not knowing how much work it was to create them. So the data sets that we received are basically numbers, but to create an image like here on the upper right, which actually is a photo in this case, but to really make it understand that the neurons, how we learn how they look like, is like slices and slices of photos that the team then recreated the 3D geometry from it, and you suddenly can understand this in the space, how science is looking at these so-called invisible worlds to make us understand them.
Yeah, there's so many things to talk about. I would love to talk about the frog, but I think it's taking too long.
Okay. So let's. It's a bit weird to give this kind of overview without going too deep into the projects, but maybe as a second project, Museum of Evolution. Funny project.
That was really a funny project. So there was like Knuthenborg is a little island, a little city in Denmark. One of, let's say, wie sagt man, Adeligen?
The lost spaces in Denmark. It's at the end of on the far left on the map, somewhere in the nowhere.
Yes.
You can see it here.
There's a very rich person, you see him here, Christopher, who comes from the royal family, but doesn't care about like the royalness, and who founded like a safari park in Denmark. And they approached us and visited us and asked, "Oh, can you do like a natural history museum about dinosaurs?" Christopher, as a hobby or big part of his life is like digging for dinosaurs, and we were lucky that he found like one of the best preserved Allosaurus skeletons and said, okay, I do like my natural history museum on my premises. But he said, hey, I want to be completely different, and could you do something that's really like telling the story about the dinosaurs rather than having like these typical white rooms with nice light where you can see everything. And he said, okay, I want to do like the next natural history museum. So we had like half a year to design 2 exhibitions. The one you see here is like the more classical one in the old house. It plays with light and shadow, and the black box that is even more light. What we did was like composing 45 minutes multi-channel audio tracks, so I think like 30 in the house, 52 in the box, and just told the story about the dinosaurs with audio play, with natural sounds, and in the end with light. So there was a joke when we did this project, so this was a black box where we said, okay, dinosaurs and lasers, wow, that's cool, let's do it. And we had like basically 3 months on site, setting this up, building these cages, and had like the complete creative freedom to do. And of course we discussed everything, and it was like the typical client discussions, but there wasn't so much change requests. So rather than the AMNH, where we did like the 52nd iteration of the pre-show and the 100th of the frog, this was like the design from the beginning, from the sketch. And we were super lucky to do this, even though it was like quite scary to run around this big guy who's worth like, I don't know, 40 millions, 50 millions. And if you're like the dude who works on the light and is very close to it, you say, okay, is my liability insurance really covering this? Hey Mark, is your liability insurance covering this?
And there's this crazy anecdote that after we finished the show, the first visitors, all the kids were peeing in their pants.
Could you lower the volume?
Basically, they cut out the main show of this installation and are at the moment running it with a kind of, let's call it the idle mode.
More mellow one.
And the kids are still peeing in their pants. Because the crazy thing about this kind of a light that goes around these bones, it was done in such a way that suddenly this animal is starting to live. The shadows are moving, the eyes are gleaming, and if you are standing there and it's a black box and the sound is super, you are really kind of thinking it's gone alive.
So roughly you have every 3 meters you had like a speaker. In the Ice Age you were standing in the building and suddenly something started to crack here and you thought, okay, is the whole building collapsing now? Oh fuck. Mm-hmm. Even though we know what we did there, was like an interesting experience, working late in the night, mixing the sound while all the construction workers are gone, and have this kind of like multi-sensory sound scenario.
So going further with other projects, we are funny people, but we take what we are doing quite serious, and House of Digitalization is a very great example. The task was to create a space in which a lot of different exhibitions could take place, so it was a kind of a tool set for this place to change content every now and then. You have to imagine it has to be an event hall, it has to be an exhibition space, it has to be a place where they can do some dinners or other things, and we designed this multi-purpose space in a way that, was it the video running? That you could move down everything that's furniture in it within, let's say, half an hour and transform the space very quickly. There is a first exhibition that Lotte and the team designed that was about the Mensch-Maschine, man and machine, the interaction, how AI is coming and taking all our work away. But it was also about how to make a multi-purpose space.
For us it was important. Can you hear me? No. For us it was important to do, let's say, some kind of other museum. Usually museums are a snapshot from the day they are opening or even before people design it. So what we did here is like a modular system that grows with time. So it is ever evolving and putting new contents, and have like this very fast-paced topic of digitalization presented in a way that you always are up to date and people can really see where they are and not where they were like half a year ago.
So I'm being told to shut up.
5? Oh.
But because Ricardo is here, I want to show another project quickly, Light Cloud. So we also do non-pixel-based installations in spaces. This is a beautiful project. Ricardo did it. I think I see some other people that contributed on the project that are sitting here. This light cloud is connecting two buildings. It's probably 14 meters by 7 meters hall with a 4-point-something meter height. It's nothing. But the cool thing is everybody who is working in these spaces is crossing this space in 7 seconds multiple times a day. And our competition entry was to create a space made of OLEDs. It's for Merck in their headquarters and innovation design centers, and we were tasked to use their OLED technology. So we created this responsive, reactive installation that uses sound and interaction to change in its mood and in its way, so that never you will experience the same experience in this space again. You can hear cows in the mountains or rain or clocks ticking and it's very weird because these images cannot convey that this space is activating something in the people. They are smiling when they go out. They have a short little break in their routines, and it's really, although it looks super technical, a very much emotional connecting space. Should I stop now? Okay. He said no. Okay. Museum of the Viking Age, another very much more institutional project together with Ralph Appelbaum Associates here from Berlin. We won the competition to recreate the full experience. They found these gorgeous Viking boats, and we are basically creating a new kind of a museum experience here where you are following narrative through different spaces. You are having a lot of, I wouldn't call them immersive anymore, but spaces which create for a short moment a transformative kind of experience, and a lot of small interactives. It's a whole partitura that you actually could, but it has disappeared. It was hanging there behind the window of spaces that Charlotte and her team are developing together with the RAA team in a joint venture. And maybe just, I don't know, what else did you put? Maybe,
That's the last one.
yeah.
That's a little teaser.
So it's crazy. We won this pitch to recreate the sound and light show of the pyramids of Gizeh with a completely different approach that we are not doing, actually. We are just redoing the sound and light show. It's a bit sad. But it's kind of interesting because it's about using the show lights of the big event people working also together in a huge consortium that we set up together with light designers and other designers and laser artists, and of course our team, which at the moment Nikolai and some other people are leading, to design a new kind of how can we create something that is respectful to such a monument, at the same time is attractive, is also a little bit of bratwurst, as I say, attracting people from all ages, but how to do this in a good way, yeah, and how to actually, light is a very how can I say, very difficult tool to use, because everybody has used it and everybody has been doing these moving light things, but we are really trying to combine it with the storytelling, etc. The beginning idea was, however, much cooler, where we had spaces we could walk through and project on lamellas that would open in a certain moment. We also had a basement into which you could go, which was much more art-driven, and now we are a little bit stuck in this problem that you sometimes run in such projects, where you have to deal with a client, with its historians, and you have to somehow to give them also a little bit of the cheesiness of, let's say, the Egyptian reenacting. But we also have some other places in this parkour of emotions where we are really restaging the parts of the story of how the pyramids were built, and are really trying to transform this to a more modern kind of installation. I don't know. Something else?
Just like a bratwurst.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. We don't have bratwurst, but drinks, so thank you very much for listening. We can give you more. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this with us.
I mean,
I could listen to this for another 2 hours, and I'm sure everybody else. So I'm sorry for being the time person.
and of course, we can be more serious too. Okay, so if you want, you can ask us questions.
Yeah, are there? Do you have maybe time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience? So do we have one? And I just have to squeeze through.
Hey, I was just interested. The New York Museum project looks really good. How did people interact with the space? Were they interacting with it in a way that you anticipated, or were they doing weird stuff, or did they use the space like you wanted them to?
I would say they used it exactly the way we anticipated it, which was a little bit anticlimactic, but also extremely rewarding. We had built a VR mock-up of the space as we were developing it, so I was every day looking into the glasses and getting used to the space, and then of course the first time actually entering the architecture and so on was quite strange. But then when we saw with actual people actually looking at the stuff, it was the most amazing, yeah, a lot of dopamine. Very good.
Good job.
But maybe I should say, hey, it's not interactive, it's only reactive.
Ooh.
No, the problem is they only understand, oh, it's interactive, but it's not. It's a simple reactiveness of the surface, which everybody can understand quickly, and it's done for tourists and Americans and other clients, so it's not complicated. And that's why they understand it, maybe.
Do we have another question? No? Vielen.
What has been your biggest challenge on these projects?
COVID. I think the general biggest challenge is also, of course, figuring out how to make it make sense for the space, so that when we're rendering things, it looks good and it looks senseful. But I think, in the end, that's you get into it. I think the biggest challenge is in this case, especially with the AMNH, it was getting all the bits and pieces of all the science and all the content aligned, and also getting it approved, and getting the whole all the meat through the sausage maker to continue the same nomenclature. Yeah.
I guess the challenges are in every project in a certain amount. They're completely different, but sometimes you have to deal with a client, sometimes with a government in the project like Egypt, or doing the science, or find the right product to do it, or find the right mapping, the right style. So each project is challenging, and a lot of time is like this kind of how do we solve problems before they occur and after.
And I think another challenge is to, let's say, keep your idea running without being stubborn, listening but not changing, fighting but not being an idiot too, understanding your client wishes, and juggling all around these things. So staying alive.
I wanted to say, to stay in love with the same idea and the same concept for 6 years can for sure be challenging. Yeah.
I mean, actually, it was, you know, you had meetings where suddenly people were put in front of you. You knew they were famous scientists, but you never heard from which field, or you didn't know their names, but you knew that in 5 minutes they can fuck your project. These are challenges, of course, but other challenges are to get paid, to be able to pay, and to make a team like this run and survive through all the shit like COVID and other things. So it's a mix of challenges, but in the end, I think the beauty of this here is that this team is, I don't know, emotionally connected and surviving certain, let's say, bumps together.
So thank you for sharing this little sausage party. And
thank you.
We're going to be back at 9 with a presentation by Onion Lab. In the meantime, please get to know each other. Feel free to ask them whatever you want and ask each others. And also, if you ever feel like you would like to present something at the TouchDesigner Roundtable, the bar is really low. You don't have to be like a world-renowned studio. You can be a beginner. We're really open for anybody who wants to share their ideas with the community. Thank you.
Hi, it's me again.
And we are back with the next presentation at the 32nd TouchDesigner Roundtable Berlin. And we're extremely pleased to introduce our next guests, which made all the way from Barcelona through the airwaves. And they're going to end up on this screen. And of course, I'm talking of Onion Lab, a multidisciplinary studio based in Barcelona that's working on interactive exhibitions and experiences. And Wieland and myself had the privilege to work with them on an immersive experience a couple of years ago. A very beautiful outcome. And so I'm happy to present to you Prachi Malvia. I hope I pronounced that right. Forgive me if not. And Jordi Pont. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. I am Jordi, one of the co-founders from Onion Lab. As Stefan just said, we are a studio from Barcelona. We do like mainly audiovisual shows, light installations, interactive installations and exhibitions, also sometimes VR things. And here is Prachi.
Hi everyone. I work as an art director with Onion Lab, and it's really nice to be here today. Thank you so much for having us. I hope you guys can hear us all right. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna show the screen so you can see the presentation with it. Okay. Okay, so we will first start with like a reel of the studio, of some works that we have done so far until today. For the ones that don't know our work, I think that you will make a little bit the idea of what we do. Okay, so when we were thinking what to explain here on that talk, we were just maybe thinking that maybe it was nice to have a little bit the evolution of the studio and how everything comes one after the other, or you get or you develop as an artist. So we thought that it was maybe nice to start from the very beginning. So I'm going to explain a little bit like our beginning, and then how everything came through with some technical knowledge that we got from different projects that then got us to a different like knowledge and adding that and mixing everything to get another different thing, and then this like creates us the style that we have and the artist that we are right now. So we started in 1999. I was on a club and I saw these two guys that you see here playing like videos on screens, very fast, synchronized with the music of the DJ on the club, and I was completely amazed with what they were doing. So I was quite young at that time, and I asked them. I went there to see them, and I asked them, and they told me that they were from Telenoica. Telenoica, it's a cultural association here in Catalonia, in Barcelona, and they were doing like really nice things. So they got me inside of this association, and that's how we started like creating videos, mixing with softwares like you see here, Aesthesis or Resolume, but maybe the first versions of Resolume, I think that started on 2001 or something like this. So we started from the very beginning of the Resolume, and we were mixing videos with Telenoica create this festival called Videa, and we were there mixing videos at 320 per 240 pixels. So it was quite a small images, and we were with huge workstation and the CRT tubes because we didn't have laptops. But we were enjoying. We were more BJs than DJs on there. So it was also an abandoned club in Barcelona. So that's how we started, and we started to like work on the video stuff with BJing on different clubs. Here, for example, you can see like 5 different video mixers, RCA connectors or S-video connectors. So we have like 4 inputs on each of those 5 mixers. So we had nearly 20 different sources of images that were being mixed to get one image to all these screens that we were on different clubs. And it was very cool at the beginning, but then after we were like trying to get more and more and more and go a little bit further on that, so we create like different setup of screens, different like adding more screens or adding more things, but we also wanted to start to go out of the screen. So we also did a lot of festivals. Here is the Creamfields Festival that it was done in Almeria, like the south of Spain, where we were setting up a lot of screens and also desert festivals with a lot of dust. Here you can see like how the computers get dirty. But our main purpose was to try to go out of those screens. So we tried to why don't we start projecting on other things rather than screens? And here you can see like some tests that we did in our houses with these marijuana dryer things that we thought that maybe it was interesting, but we had that layer thing holographic in between. But here you can see also that we finally put it on the club. So then after that we thought that we were also trying to do more things, so we started like projecting on the building outside of the club where the queue for entering inside the club was, so people could see like in an arty way what was happening inside of the club. So that's our very first projection. Then with the community of Spain, there was a community that called BJ Spain that we join all the BJs in Spain, like somewhere around Madrid. And then here you can see like our very first mapping that we did with, we took just a photo of this ugly building on the right, and then we just, with After Effects 5.5, we did some masks with the photo, and then we didn't have any like warping thing or Resolute just has like some corner pins, but it finally worked quite well. So we did our first mapping there until the police came, because the projector was in the middle of the street somewhere. So the police came and they just go out of here because you are just doing there in the middle of the street. And after that, this was like some years later, not only like BJing on clubs, so we started like working with our first media servers. So here you can see like the Edirol PR80, which was one of the first media servers that I worked with. And on the left side, you can see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different media servers that they had the one output for each computer, but we put like certain parts of the whole image that we wanted to create on each computer, and then via MIDI we synchronized the whole video, so they were playing that. I have to say also that it took me like a lot of time to like upload the footage or the content that we wanted to play, because this was like USB 1.0, and like we were putting a huge files, and it took a long time to upload all the content. And also this was working with Fura dels Baus, which is like one of the a very representative let's say association here from Catalonia, that they did a lot of operas. So we started working with them, creating like the scenography, and we had also to like with processing, we create a small app to have different parts of the image playing on a lot of laptops that we were just also triggering via MIDI. And this was like part of the actors were having these computers like as a screen, and also they were putting also on the stage, creating this scenography, and it was being played, and it was everything controlled with processing and some MIDI notes that we were, okay, now it's this video, so we were just triggering all this content from there. And this was a little bit the result. Here you can see like the different parts of the image that it was formed with all these Edirol servers. And we did like the operas from Wagner. It was very nice time that we were doing operas all around the world with the Fura dels Baus. And then that's how we started, or I'm gonna just start with the explaining a little bit with working as we create Onion Lab, and then how everything came through, a little bit how from the idea of one project to what it gets to the final delivery of the project. No? So we saw that video that was from Jimong, that I think that it's amazing that that he did this synchronization with the robotic arms, with 3D Studio Max, and then moving the camera inside, that creating all this perspective thing, depending on where the robots were, and mapping that on this thing. So we thought we wanted to create something like this. So we start, why don't we put like LED screens on the robotic arms, and then we add a dancer on top, and we create somehow a show that can, like, the dancer can go on top of these screens, the robotic arms can go up, and then create something. So I started to go to, I think, like almost all the different brands of the different robotic arms, asking them to give me give me those two big robots, and then some other smaller ones. But ABB, KUKA, or other brands, but finally they came, or the only one they were saying, no, we are not gonna leave you this for free. We're selling just robotic arms. We don't or rent it, or we don't leave them for you. So also we couldn't find a client that could be able to pay for the amount of that what was that project. And finally came that I found a brand called Staubli that he told me, yes, we can leave you these 5 small robotic arms. So we start, okay, so why don't we start like develop, what can we do with these 5 robotic arms? So we create a small simulation in 3D. We always start, I have to say that we always start with 3D simulations. I think it's very useful for us to, like, from the idea to start creating any 3D thing, to see like the sizes of everything, the feeling or the look and feel that it will have. So we thought that maybe it was nice and maybe it was easy to have one laser there, put some mirrors on each of those robotic arms, and then try to create some choreographies with the movements and geometric shape with these reflections of the laser light. And we didn't know how to work with lasers, but we started creating stupid things with lasers, with TouchDesigner, and then trying different reflections with these mirrors, calling the people that smokes inside of the studio to please throw some smoke so I can see the laser. And that's how we started. No, we started working with laser with that, and finally, here you can see in the middle the photo that when we got these amazing robots that I always wanted to work with that, and we had the opportunity to create this art piece for Mira Festival, which is one of the a very interesting festival here in Barcelona. So we did this show, and that's how we started working with lasers. So then, for example, other things that it gets to us, because we were having some more ideas and saying like, why don't we start working with lights and synchronizing lights with video? So we thought that maybe it was good to have the same lights that were or the same lights, the virtual lights that we had inside of our 3D software could also be the same that we have on the physical space. So we create like a Python script to like send some data from the virtual lights that we have with Cinema 4D to then send it to TouchDesigner, and then via TouchDesigner send it to Arnet. So we started with this, no? So you can see here, like we start with the Cinema 4D, like doing some tests on the studio, then some tests on the supplier of the whole show. And here on the right side, you can see like we create the 3D space with the same dimensions, with the same placing the lights where they will be physically when we go to install the piece that we create. So it was just a small tweaking, but it worked quite well, and we could create some interesting light shows. So this was one of I think that these were like 2 of the key projects that were there and had this, or makes us work with these techniques that right now we are nearly working on the whole projects that we do. And moving fast forward today, Prachi will explain you a little bit more the insights of some other projects that we have done.
All right, so today I'll take you through 2 of the projects that really stood out to me in my time in Onion Lab as well. So keeping our intense obsession and love for lasers alive. The first project that we're going to look at is Algorithm. And I think this is one of those projects that we really had the opportunity to imbibe the technology with real life context. So it wasn't just playing with lights, but also what we could do and use them in experiences and what they could communicate for us. So looking into it, this project was done in 2022 for the city of Lyon. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But we started collecting a lot of data, and data about pretty much essentially anything about their environmental landscape. So their air quality, their humidity, their biking circulation, pretty much just how the city functions in terms of sound and smoke as well. And once we started collecting all of this data, it took us to the most fun part of the project, which is being able to find parallels between this data and how we wanted to use this data to evoke emotion. So in this absolutely beautifully structured TouchDesigner file is where all of the emotion actually happened. And we used all of the data from the live APIs that we had and linked it into our lasers, into our lights, into the sound. So you can see how it was slightly modulated in a bit of a recording of the sample of the file here. And we had about 120 lasers on site. So it was an incredibly elaborate programming that finally resulted in a bunch of things that we programmed. So for example, the quality of the air was linked to the tempo of the arpeggio notes and the sounds that we were using, as well as the speed of the tilts of the cameras of the laser. So every time the air quality increased or the humidity in the air would increase, you would see it visually reflect in the environment around you. So it was able to really catch like an urgent sense of emergency in highly populated areas of the city, and then it would kind of slow down and give the viewers a moment of calm when the pollution's levels kind of dropped. And in a similar way, I think the angles of the tilting of the lasers here were directly connected to the consumption of the energy. So how much carbon was being consumed, how much fossil fuel energy was being confused on a daily basis in the city. And similarly, we also actually went and recorded the sound pollution in 8 of the landmarks of the city, names of which I will not even try and pronounce. But you can see all of the data at the bottom of the screen here. And that was directly linked to the panning motion of each laser set. So you get the idea here. So the idea was to have that environment kind of speak to us and be able to convert numbers and data into something that can be experienced. And of course, TouchDesigner really helped with being able to program this setup. And after a bunch of prototyping and figuring out our tools and how they would work, also braving our fear of heights and the cold, because the weather here is actually really nice all year round. We were able to create this setup, which was in the Festival of Lights in 2022. And we also had a little display that showed you the data that was being represented in the moving lights. And this is how it ended up looking. And I think it was quite impactful how much we could transit through just a singular colored light show. And the second project that I really want to take us through is called Klanglich. We did this in 2023. And I think it's quite beautiful because it's kind of laden with a lot of symbols and metaphors. And in this project, we were trying to figure out how to show the passage of time. And I'll take you through the process a little bit, but like every creative at some point of time in their lives, we kind of got really obsessed with patterns, like really, really obsessed with patterns. So we were looking at ones that are formed organically and naturally in the environments around us, but also the ones that are man-made consciously or unconsciously. And we were trying to sense what are the similarities. And we realized we're not the first people to have had that bright thought of patterns. So we started looking into how other artists have represented these patterns over time. And then that also, this was our landscape and this was the canvas, and it's all about the set and the setting. So of course, it's a clock tower. We talked about the passage of time. It's not necessarily the brightest idea, but how we planned to do it was creating a set of 7 patterns that move chronologically. from the date of when the technique was founded and linked them with something that we wanted to express with each of those techniques. So, for example, our first pattern was actually was inspired by Cyanotype, which was founded in, I'm not necessarily sure what date, but it was the original form of photography, as some of you might know. And we used that technique to be able to represent what changing natural landscapes look like. So you overlap the two of these together, and we started prototyping different visuals that could be created. And this was used creating some manual things, using post-production, using Midjourney, having After Effects reveal it. But we started prototyping what that exactly could look like. And similarly, one of our last patterns, the technique that we used was very generative art, but in a manual scape. And what we wanted to portray with that was like the landscape and the architectural, structural drawings that humans have created to plan cities and plan our spaces and plan things like the clock tower. So taking that forward, we kind of fed it into TouchDesigner and went a bit haywire with filters, saw what we could produce. I think we had like huge creative freedom with when it came to representation of this part of the process. And of course, we used AI to create more and more instances and morph between what it thought city representations could look like in the future. For the city of Graph. And yeah, these are the kind of prototypes that we ended up with finally. And sorry about that. And what's beautiful to see here is like we have a little bit of everything from a very manual technique, which was taken into post-production, to using 3D to show optical illusions and the kind of patterns that artists have made over the years, all the way to straight like using runway and Midjourney and image instancing and stable diffusion to create patterns that AI thought would represent our cities in the future. So yeah, this was like a great way of overarchingly 3D mapping a very beautiful landmark of the city. Yep. And we also were really into interactivity over the past few years that Jordi will take us through.
Yeah, so after all that explanation, I think that it was also nice to like start talking about what I think that Onion Lab started in 2006, so it's nearly 18 years. But I think that with interactivity, maybe it's more than 10 or 15 years. So we create a lot of projects with interactivity, and we did like immersive spaces with interactivity, light installations with interactivity, interactive floors for shops, exhibitions, different places. Here it's like the Spanish Pavilion of Dubai Expo, some other projects that we did. So with all that knowledge that we got during all these whole years, we were trying to like organize all these ideas, because every time that we create a project was like completely a mess, or we started from scratch. Like, so finally, after all that years, we said, okay, why don't we organize everything and try to make our work easier, and also why not make the work easier for other people? So we started developing a software that maybe it could be very easy for a lot of people to create this interactivity without having all this complex knowledge of programming and things. So maybe for the audiovisual studios that doesn't have this knowledge of programming, but they have like knowledge on creating real-time images, could start working with, or could also be a tool that could add them, because and that's how we create this on and off software that Prachi right now will also explain you a little bit how is it. Then we will go a little bit with an example of how it works.
Yeah, so like Jordi mentioned, mostly it's by the creatives who've tried to do this plenty of times for the other creatives. And what it essentially does is it's like the first step it does is it works as a guide. So it helps you set up your cameras, your sensors, your lidars, depending on if you're working with a floor or a wall, to most optimally cover your space, and how that live feed can then get stitched together. It helps you calibrate each sensor and make the data outputable. It also helps you manipulate the settings that you would like. So the speed of the motion, what is the estimated radius of the object, maybe let's say that you can remove the noise based on what your situations are like. And using our outputs, we can actually output to multiple softwares now, TouchDesigner and the other ones presented. Even I think that we've added 2 or 3 more to this list now. A bit of how the software works. Hang on a second. Yeah, this is a little bit of how the software works. With the different softwares that it's linked to. So you can see a bit of Notch and TouchDesigner, but I'll let Jordi take us through how it works with TouchDesigner more in depth. But just going through the bit of the user interface, this is what it looks like. You can create your canvas. Every time you add or connect a sensor, it shows up on your list, and you can edit its position, its area of coverage, and then calibrate each of them individually. And the calibration process is like step by step, and you're taken through it. And similarly here, you can go into your output and you can set exactly what you would like the output to cover, what information you would like to send and not send. And this is really sped up in the interest of time, but I think Jordi will take us through how it looks on TouchDesigner as well.
Okay, yeah. Okay, everything there. I think everything is okay because we don't see anything. So I guess everything okay. Stefan, okay?
I don't really hear you guys, so
Okay.
I guess we'll never know.
Okay,
Okay, thank you guys. It was starting to feel like a monologue.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so I'm just starting a project of the software on and off. So this is just a trial version that you can download on the website if you want to just try it. Well, 1 second, I'm gonna just deactivate some things. Now I'm gonna show you a little bit. I don't want to be a lot of time. I will be very fast.
Jordi, I think we're actually running a bit out of time. I'm sorry to say that.
Okay, how do we need to stop? Can I go for 5 minutes very fast?
The 3.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go through it that we have all these sensors, then we place the sensors as they are on a physical space, and then we just put them there and we calibrate them very fast, and then we have the movement of the people, and then this is like fake people that we create. Then you create the output. I'm going to like open TouchDesigner. Then all this data will go to the IP that you want, the port that you decide. Then you get the data of each people. If you want, if you say OSC, you check the index, the position, which is X and Y, the height. I mean, let me wait 1 second. The X and Y, the height and the angle and the size of the person that we are tracking. So then we get that to TouchDesigner. For example, with OSC, we also have UDP, Tuyo, or Position StageNet. And then, second, here we have like the input that where we are having all these indexes, the positions, the size, the height, the size, and the angle. Then we create a replicator that has this like liquid thing on there, And then with this data, we also can create these triggers that for example, I put this one, which is like another output that we are sending to another port. And then we get this here on this OSC in. And then it's just like, you see here some ramps. Every time that, one second, every time that any of those tracking person pass by this trigger zone that we have decided, it will change the color. I don't know if no one is coming there. Okay, I will put this one. So here, once everyone entering there, it's just changing this switch here for the color of the ramp. And mainly that's it. It's very fast. You can just download it if you wanna on the website oninoff.com. And for closing there, we just want to show you a little bit that overall this talk, we just wanted to inspire you a little bit with the process of the development of an artist that you have inside. Sometimes you are not working on the best place. You can sometimes work on a bathroom, but wherever that you do, enjoy what you do and try to learn a lot, and don't worry about what are you doing now, because this will drive you to something very nice that will go to another thing that finally will get you to the artist that you will get.
We appreciate the extra 3 minutes.
Well, thank you very much, Onion Lab, for this indeed very inspiring inspiration. I'm never going to think about bathroom the same way. And of course, this tool looks super interesting that you've presented. I see a lot of people taking notes. I think we have time for one question from the audience. Are there? No? I think they're overwhelmed.
It's better always to have no questions, because questions is the most difficult part.
Yeah, okay. So then, thank you very much for coming all this way to the screen, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to meet in person soon. And thank you very much.
Thank you to you. Thank you very much. Thank you. See you soon. Thank you.
So before we head to the much anticipated social break, I have to say that we're going to be back at 9 or maybe 5 minutes past 9 with Sohrab Samsam and his presentation. We're looking forward very much. And then also Dirk asked to share some information about the door and the security situation.
Yes, now comes a boring disclaimer. So in this building, they used to close the door at 10, and if you have it open, the alarm went off. So at every door, there's like a little buzzer, so you can open and go out. Every one of us has like a key and can open. So, and if the alarm went off,
Okay, all good. Thank you.
And we are back with the next presentation. So if you could kindly take your seat, or at least shut up, because we have a very interesting presenter. It's Sohrab Samsam. He's a Berlin-based interdisciplinary artist with a background in architecture and digital media, which he merges into installations that combine the physical with the digital world and AI and lots of other things. And he's going to tell us more about his work now. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so
Sohrab.
much. Thank you so much. It's very special to be here, not only because the amazing Node Institute and TouchDesigner Roundtable, but also because we are here at incredible Tamschick. For young designers and artists like me, both names are big names, inspiring. Thank you so much for having me here. Today I'm going to take you through a little bit of my creative as well as technical process of a couple of my projects, mostly TouchDesigner related projects. As Stefan mentioned, my name is Sohrab. My background is in architecture, digital media, and filmmaking, commercial filmmaking. Around 3 years ago, I was trying hard to find a way to blend these together, to blend my physical and digital worlds together. And that led me here to Berlin to finish a master in new media design. Oh, spoiler. To finish a master in new media design and media spaces. And since then, I've been working as an interdisciplinary artist, new media designer, or my favorite title, spatial media designer. Yes, I would like to start with my very first interactive project, Tamasha. It's actually the first project that I did using TouchDesigner. Yeah, I forgot to mention something. Yeah. The most incredible thing about TouchDesigner for me when I started learning it was this possibility of having a kind of real-time conversation with an artwork, and that was kind of familiar in my head back in my culture. Let me talk about the concept of this project. We have this phenomenon in Persian traditional art called Persian miniature. These are usually some super complex and full of details paintings and dated around 500 to 800 years ago, usually illustrating an important poem or something. But the very special thing about them for me was that unlike a painting that you most likely find on the wall to be seen, these small single folios in a very thick book in the corner of your bookshelf. So instead of being on the wall to be seen, they are somehow hidden with these massive amounts of details in a book. It means they are there to be approached when you have enough time, when you are patient enough to have an intimate set while you patiently spending time with it. And that's part of the concept. They are not there to be seen, but they are there to tamasha. Tamasha is a Persian verb, and there is no accurate translation in English for it. A Persian term meaning to spend time looking at something in an immersive and enjoyable way, often involving movement and deep engagement. I always say if seeing is the first level, then looking is the second one, then tamasha could be the third one. So, enough about the concept. The intention was simple. I was trying to find a way to translate this tamasha to a digital artwork. So I found this Tobii eye tracker thanks to Harshini, who is here, because that was the first sensor that I had ever used. So I found this simple Tobii eye tracker, simply tracking where you are looking at, sending it as a mouse input. Amazing, super simple. And on the other hand, I had this very famous Persian miniature. I started to track some people who are looking at this painting. I tried to somehow interpret a way to translate this concept when they are actually doing this action of tamasha. So I asked a couple of people, like my mother, who is an Iranian artist, who actually is still familiar with this concept of tamasha, because that's a kind of blurred concept in the contemporary era. But long story short, I know that the ideal way to do this was to have a massive data set, probably a touch of AI could make probably an incredible, accurate detector for tamasha, but I was not able to do that. I simply tried to define some boundaries for myself to see when they are actually doing this act. So I simply had this grid juxtaposed on my painting, and I set some rules, some simple logics. For example, glancing, if the audience is just looking and not looking and is not really focused on the painting, and then if they are focused but they are hovering all around the painting, that's probably scanning. And for example, if their gaze point is somehow limited between a couple of boxes for a little time, then inspecting, and at the end, if they are spending enough time, focus enough in a couple of boxes, not really focus on one point, because that's not also the moment that you are enjoying. It needs to have this movement, and that would be the tamasha. So basically, the installation sends this gaze point actually uses these gaze points and send it to my TouchDesigner server. Based on the point that you're looking at, you can interact with colors. Colors are inspired by the painting. Landscapes are inspired by the painting. And there are all my takes from that. And the more you spend time with it, the more you look at different points, you can really take it to the next level. Yeah, yeah. I was lucky enough to exhibit this at Silent Screen for Spiel 2023. That was an amazing experience. And here is a little video of what actually happens. So the audience approaches the painting, and there is this physical, actually printed version of painting. The Tobii eye tracker is installed on it. As far as they are just looking at the huge screen in front of them, the whole thing is inactive. But immediately when they try to look at the painting, they realize that something is happening. And little by little, depending on how patient they are, they can achieve more. And the tricky part here is that they never actually can really observe what they are doing, because the whole rule of tamasha, or being immersed in an analog, slow-paced piece, is to stay focused on it. So immediately when they try to observe what they have done, that's already gone. And yeah, that was tamasha, where I really enjoyed this, playing around with this contrast of slow-paced traditional art or traditional Persian art with high-tech, fast, flashy visuals. And I enjoyed that a lot. And also I enjoyed to work on something from my culture, so I continued. The next project that I want to talk about, second, please. Sorry. The next project that I really want to talk about is one of my current projects, Living on an Inn. It's an AI-generated Persian carpet. A little bit about the context. That's me, by the way. And so we all know about Persian carpets, right? We've heard about them. But what are they? For us in the contemporary era, we know them as some decorative elements, valuable and beautiful artifacts. But back in the original context, they were a kind of integral layer into the everyday culture. For thousands of years, the whole Persian carpet is shaped by, the whole Persian culture is shaped by Persian carpets and the other way around. So back in the context, they are not just decorative images. But that's more and less the way that we perceive them these days. So I did this little research and wrote this little paper about this with the same title, Living on and in Persian Carpets. And what is important here and is related to my project is that I found a very interesting similarity between a concept that Henry Lefebvre pointed at in the production of a space between these Persian spaces and some elements which are creating a space. In the book, he actually points out that any space has this conceived space and lived space, and that was the very interesting part for me, because this conceived space is more and less the way that these days we conceptualize and we perceive the Persian carpet. If I ask you what is a Persian carpet, you probably start thinking of a rectangle, probably reddish with some symmetrical, geometrical patterns on it, but that's the conceptual picture of the carpet. And the other side, which is the lived space and the experimental value, is somehow neglected. So I started with ChatGPT. I had this conversation and I tried to push it to start generating some gray-scale pixelated images from Persian carpet patterns, very similar to the way that these days we remember Persian carpets better than us. it was able to create lots of them, lots of patterns. I'm almost pretty sure that it covered so many different styles of these images. And from there, I took them, I imported them in TouchDesigner. I used this incredible stream diffusion tool, and I had this switcher play around with all those ChatGPT-generated grayscale images with a simple prompt of top view of a pixelated black and white Persian carpet. By doing all this, I achieved this video, which is not, yeah. I achieved a kind of smooth, generative carpet pattern. Somehow we can say an unlimited pattern generator that works real time, has this kind of alive texture and feeling. And from there, you can already imagine that I used that as a kind of height map, as you can see there. So that was the first layer. That was the conceptual part of the carpet. And then the idea was to project this on the floor to create this kind of flat projection, but also with the illusion of depth, a generative carpet. But on the other layer, the second layer, which was the experimental value of these carpets, I started collecting some family album photos. Photos which are not necessarily about carpet itself, but photos in which carpet is hosting a scene, a very everyday moment, a very ordinary moment of Iranian life. And from there, I also used and collected some memories, sayings, sentences, and stories that I've heard as a young Iranian person, but I've not necessarily lived them. I've heard about this warm, famous afternoon that my grandmother would spread the carpet in the courtyard. I've heard that, but I never experienced that. So I combined those family album photos with these prompts, and I generated 1,200 images using AI. And I'm pretty sure there were better ways to import them in TouchDesigner, but yeah, that's what I did. Let me know if there is any better way. Yeah, I mean, by the way, I didn't do that manually, but it's like a simple line of, code. And also a simple texture instancing, taking care of assigning each of those 2,000 images to one point in my carpet grid. And yeah, that's it. Those two layers, the result is these generative carpets. When you start walking from far, you see this kind of generative digital carpet, but immediately when you step on it, you somehow learn that there is something happening underneath. So you might get closer and you start seeing all these moments of a regular Iranian lifestyle, something that carpets had housed for many years. And yeah. Thank you. So the next project that I want to briefly talk about is my gesture control digital window display. I had this idea inspired by a tough day that I was really trying hard to point out a jewelry piece to my friend next to me, lost between 10 of them, and I was really thinking of possibility of having a kind of superpower to point what I'm thinking of. So I created a prototype out of this. The idea is simple. There is a digital screen inside a window. So in this prototype, that window is a jewelry store window, and there are also some actual pieces in that window. There is this digital mannequin. You can actually point out one of those objects, and based on your based on the object that you are pointing, the whole digital set will be changed. And then you can also control the mannequin's hand in different positions, making you able to try out a single piece from different angles, and potentially a starting point for any digital extension. So, as you noticed, I used a lip motion, which is installed on the window display. I also prototyped this with a Kinect Azure. Both had advantages and downsides. But yeah, the whole process is very simple. The lip motion is taking care of picking one image per second. Talking about images, I think and assume that many of you, while you were watching the video, thought that there is a 3D model probably in the window. And that's how I started prototyping. But in the middle, I just got curious about this idea of using photos instead of a 3D model. As I said, I have a background in commercial filmmaking, working as a creative director, so I was curious what happens if you really can use those high-quality commercial photo shoots and try this idea with them. So the workflow here is super simple, mostly for me to understand what's going on. Instead of having a linear stop-motion technique, which is usually an altered, so in a linear stop-motion technique, each pixel is usually an altered similar frame to the neighbors in the left and right. Here, I explored this idea in a kind of two-way stop-motion system. So I prototyped this with a 3D model, and I exported some frames out of that to see how it works. And then I had this photo shoot where I used TouchDesigner for having the camera live signal going to TouchDesigner, juxtaposing my references on it, showing it to the actor, to the model, that they can adjust their hand in the right position. And yes, and then later, based on the aesthetic that I had in my head, I manipulated that a little bit. And as I said, that was a prototype, but after almost a year, I started working on the project again. This time, we are trying to do this with an Iranian company, a jewelry store. And this time, I'm exploring a little bit of possibilities of integrating AI. The cool thing here for me is that now I have all those images accurate enough in 100 position for my two-dimensional stop-motion system. So the idea, which is still in the very early stages, is to use that as a reference, ideally training an AI with all the images of a single piece of jewelry from all the angles, and then applying that AI effect on those image references. And what you are seeing here is one of the very first sketches of using the same system integrated with AI. What you are seeing here is not a two-dimensional stop-motion system. It's a linear path, but we are just working on it. And the last thing that I want to share is more like my these days hobby. I mean, 3 months ago almost, I realized that there is this possibility in TouchDesigner to work on virtual reality content. I had no idea. So I had done works in virtual reality. We usually use Unreal Engine. But yeah, I mean, I had seen that little node up there in TouchDesigner, that little chop, the Oculus chop, but I mean, maybe I'm mistaken, but there was never even documentation for that, and it seems so old and so on. So I simply didn't know. But yeah, after learning out, I realized that the process is super simple. You do whatever you do in TouchDesigner in a 3D scene, but instead of having a 2D renderer, you just use a cube map renderer, and from there you either project this to an equirectangular unfolded map that is super interesting for me, because with that unfolded map you can just upload your video on YouTube, share the link with anyone else in this world, and they can simply experience your project using their cell phones, which is really powerful to me. Or if you want, you can just connect this directly to your Quest 2 or Quest 3 with a very simple process, and have your image in real time. But let me talk about an example of how I actually use this. So a couple of months ago, or almost a year ago, we did an amazing VR project in a studio at a Slow Future. Ricardo here, Harshini, they did an amazing job on this project. It was a team effort at a Slow Future, Basil Nauri. So that's the project that we took care in Unreal Engine. At the moment, we were supposed to present this project as an interactive version, but soon enough, after exhibiting it 2 times, we realized that most of the focus is on how to actually navigate in this world. So for the very recent version, we decided to try the pre-recorded version. So we recorded the whole 20 minutes video and experience out of it. And by deciding to use the pre-recorded version, it already got super excited for me to explore some possibilities of adding content and adding filters and post-process on the footage. So for example, this scene that you are seeing here was an impossible mission for us, at least at the moment. In Unreal Engine, we were trying hard to create this kind of dreamlike letters waterfall. But yeah, at the moment, we just canceled it. But in TouchDesigner, you can imagine that I probably did it in 2-3 hours. And it worked perfectly fine for our project. A little bit of texture instancing and particle system, super easy. And also next to that, I used TouchDesigner for adding and for actually creating some cool transitions, doing post-processing on my equirectangular image with these feedback loops and so on. And yeah, the result was so satisfying for us and also so much simple. Yeah, we also could simply add some text guides inside our 360 world, playing around with some branding materials, adding reflection, using simple nodes like displacement on the water and so on. So super powerful, super fast. And the last slide that I'm going to show is using the same system for my carpet project that I just talked about. As you see, I fully took care of this in TouchDesigner. So it can be an extension for my installation that I can just share with a QR code on YouTube, which to me is really amazing. And people can just interact with it using their phones. And yeah, another dimension and a nice extension of my project. And I'm really looking forward to explore more and more using this fun and simple workflow. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Sohrab, for this really great presentation.
Thank you so much.
I said before that it's kind of fresher to present something as a single artist confronted with these bigger studios, but I think it's really nice to see how TouchDesigner can merge into an artistic practice that is deep in concept and beautiful in results. So
thank you so much.
Thank you much. Do we have questions for Sohrab? And now we finally don't have to rush to get to the next beer, but we can take some time.
Easy, please.
Hi, very nice, very nice.
Thank you.
I love it, especially the carpet things. In the last picture, I saw the lady with the tablet. How you solved it?
So the equirectangular render that I just talked about?
So is it an app running on the tablet?
Just running on the YouTube app. So you just render, so you just inject the 360 video with a 360 injector, upload it on YouTube 360 and...
Okay. Sorry, this I thought TouchDesigner Bridge or some Unreal or something weird going on. Thanks.
Hello, so I've seen both your projects, the carpet and the Persian picture in person. It's amazing. I'm wondering about what's your next cultural influence for the next thing you do?
That's a tough question. I've been thinking about Persian calligraphy. I mean, I have done something on Persian calligraphy back in my architecture days, but not an interactive project that I briefly talked about at Manifesto. But I really have some ideas to make it interactive and play with this very interesting contrast between all those slow-paced mediums in Persian art and these amazing fast technologies. So probably Persian calligraphy.
Hey, thank you for the talk. I'm interested, I never saw before this two-dimensional stop-motion principle. Is this something that you invented, or is it that
I simply don't know. I mean, I never heard about this. Especially today, before talking about this, I asked our dear friend ChatGPT. I talked about it. I just wanted to make sure if it has a name, let me call that name. I mean, it came to my mind, and I never saw a similar thing. I also searched briefly today. I couldn't find any, so maybe. But I really don't. I'm not really sure.
I think it's very genial. Like, how do you say, genial? It's really great. I never saw it. Maybe you should get a patent.
Maybe too late. Maybe I already presented this in front of. Oh, that's live. Too late.
Die Katze ist aus dem Sack.
Yeah.
There is a question from... Shouldn't you have access to a closer microphone?
Yeah, just making sure. Great. Just a comment and then a question. One thing I really value about your work is, firstly, your insane level of perfectionism and such a clear process in your design. And even when you are presenting work about your Iranian culture, it's really, I think, important that we're looking at artifacts that we we see them as objects, you know, that are meant to be looked at, but your projects actually are like, no, we need to decolonize our approach to this because these objects are meant to be lived on, right? They're part of our environment. So I really appreciate that kind of decolonial approach to your work. I know you're teaching a class where your students are experimenting with VR and TouchDesigner, and also the project you showed, How Am I Here, with Slow Future, is also exhibiting at How. Do you just want to like plug in a little bit like the events that are happening in the next few days, and also where people can see your work?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for pointing that out. Yes, tomorrow we are exhibiting our digital environment classes projects. They did amazing jobs for doing some VR, virtual reality, and augmented reality projects. Emily is here, so we were co-teaching this amazing class with amazing students. A couple of them are sitting here. And they also, I've heard that a couple of them, because we actually had this little workshop on this simple workflow that I just showed you in TouchDesigner for creating 360 VR material. And I know that a couple of them are integrating that, so I'm really looking forward to see that. And How Am I Here project, the one that is done by Slow Future. We are presenting that at How. And I will share about both on my Instagram. So that's a good reason to scan that QR code.
Any more questions? If not, then I have to thank you again very much for this great talk and for being here. And yeah, hopefully lots of people come to see the exhibition.
I hope so.
And before we finally just have to do socializing, my friend Danilo has asked to say a few words to the community. Do you want maybe to come forward?
Thank you, Stefan. Okay, I'm Danilo Grande from Blood Pools, and Stefan gave me these last 3 minutes of the meeting to communicate with you. So I have a little announcement to do. Maybe some of you know that we are having kind of installation in Monopol Berlin, Dragon installation plus some other technologies. And as a consequence of that, we are having a very intense activity there for the next 3, 4, 5 months. And I spoke with Jose, that is the manager of Monopol, and I said, I need a place to work. You know, I'm resident in Berlin right now. I didn't expect that. I wanted to come back and forward, but I'm living here now, and I need at least a desk. And he said, okay, and he drove me to the apparat building, and he gave me like a 200 square meters of office in a beautiful, raw place. So I said, okay, this is too much for me and a few people that I have. So maybe it's a better idea to share it and spontaneously try to create a co-working space here, very focused on people that is willing to have a space to work connected with people on the same level of mindset, mainly about digital arts creation, whatever. So we can provide this place for the people with not necessarily money changing. It's just maybe we can have some kind of deal about you can just provide something of your expertise or something and can have a place to work. Any time that you want, in a desk, a decent meeting room with a beautiful place and an amazing showroom full of technology.
I'll move in on Monday.
Yeah, you can. Actually, we have to paint the place. We have to reform the place. I will start painting myself on Sunday. It's going to be transformed. So anybody that wants to come is plainly invited in different levels. So if you come earlier, it's going to be more yours. That's it. Thank you.
Another playground. Well, then let me say the following. If any of you wants to present at the TouchDesigner Roundtable, you're more than welcome. We have a very short planning horizon, meaning we have no clue who's going to present next month. We have made some little talks, maybe here and there. Some people might be interested, but really please come forward, talk to me, talk to Wieland, talk to Hashini, write us an email. The door is wide open and we're very curious to see what you have to share. And with that, I want to thank you for coming tonight. Thank you to Wieland and Hashini on the tech desk. Thank you again for Tamschick Media+Space to have us here. And what? No more beer. Oh. Well, and thank you to TouchDesigner and Derivative for bringing us all together. And with that, thank you. See you soon next month.